Not sure whether this will turn.
Volcanic soil prevented oxygen from circulating. Without oxygen, the microbes, which cooled to decay, could not attack them. Groundwater within these soils.
Really cool bits.
He's really good at making things like cones and things, even its ice skates are good. This is a new house, which was made from new wood. Ours is like this, I'll show you later. Can you see how small the windows are? There are shutters to keep the cold out, but no glass. The roofs are made from straw from the fields. Doesn't get the rain at all. We got to sell in our house. 18.
So I'm going to count to 3, young lady, and I need you to say yes for me. Can you do that? Possibly, maybe. Any sort of vocal say yes. Yes, there we go. So, 1, 2, 3. Now, young lady, if you'd like to pick up that coin from this. Alright, that is your very own Viking coin. You are the first and currently only person in the world to ever touch it. And it was just made at your command.
Side of the householder, and the women are theoretically descended from the devil, so they're seated on the left. But that idea would continue down to here as well.
Right.
So on this table, which is the right-hand side of Master himself, would have been important enough guests to deserve recognition, but not important enough perhaps to be seated at a high table with the family or other lords and ladies that are visiting. And also, the more important would have sat closer to the high table, and then as it progressed, it would have gone to the least important of the deserve to be recognized people.
On the object. This crust stops further decay.
After a good meal, the dining table would contain bits of uneaten food and inedible pieces of meat.
In whatever fashion it's fit. However, if the woman was to do the same in return, it is not good. And also, there's records.
Right guys, hello! Welcome to Everyday Adventures honeymoon special in York. So, we're literally just after the talking about the wedding itself, so I'm halfway through a bottle of champagne. Let's see how this goes. She's not, she's through fizzy juice. So our first day here, we drove down yesterday, which was the Monday, 13th of July. 14th, sorry, my apologies. Bit mental, we got down late because the dog was going to be coming with us, and we were going to do all the walking tours, etc, etc. But she managed to slice her paw open the day before the wedding. So she's currently sitting at my brother's in a sulk because we've left her to it.
But we agreed it would not be fair for her to be left alone in a caravan. She's effectively garden bound. because of the bandage and the stitching.
So yeah, so this is a universal shout out to my brother for looking after the dog.
Thank you.
We weren't.
We've brought you a present.
We've brought you a present, and we'll probably pick up more knowing me. So anyway, today we went to York itself, and we went to both the Jorvik Viking Centre and Barley Hall. We'll start with the Jorvik Viking Centre. I will actually start with a quick point, which is do not drive to York City Centre.
No, go to the park and ride and get the bus, because trying to find parking is horrific enough, and the cost of it is even more horrific. We searched a couple of places, and the cheapest we could find
was
all day
$11.50 for all day.
was, including the charge for doing it on the phone, was £12.
Yeah.
The main car park in York, right by
The castle.
the castle, is $2.60 an hour. They do not have an all-day option.
Yeah, they're pushing to get people to use the parking lot. So just do it.
Yes.
Because quite frankly, forgetting the car parking, driving in York City Centre,
It's horrific.
if you don't
so many
know,
one-way streets.
oh god,
Because there's one part, it's like there's a green light, and you're like, can I turn? There's cars going down that road. What? And then you realise
Yeah,
it's
it was
actually a one-way street.
two one way. It was had to go down a one way street. It was just I can't even describe it. It was so
Horrific.
insane.
It was terrible.
So just don't do it.
Don't drive.
Like, look, do your forward planning. We didn't. Right, moving on from that. So once we got there, Jorvik Viking Centre.
This was a big thing we wanted to do today.
This was something I have wanted to do since Primary 1, Primary 2, when I've seen other people go, when I saw other kids go there and say it was amazing, and I was really into Vikings as a kid, and I really wanted to do it. And it's excellent. I would have said it was smaller than I thought it was going to be.
Yes, my mum went last year before. Very recently anyway, last 2 years or so, my mum went, yes, and recommended it to me, and she made out that it was bigger than it was as well.
Yeah.
But still, definitely worth going to do. Try not to catch it when there's school groups in.
Oh, that was okay.
It was fine, but it did mean we sort of did it twice.
Yeah.
So that we could,
Yeah, well, there was a school group. It's fine. Basically, we can go through this really quickly on what the layout was. You go down a set of stairs, and you get to a dig site. It's a glass floor dig. It's a replica, but you basically, and you get a.
Well, the dig site itself is
real, but it's a replica of a real dig site.
The artifacts that they've sort of planted for you to go and find, because there's a map with like 1 to 13 on it, but the artifacts they've planted aren't real.
Yeah.
Just, I think, to stop people breaking in to steal, a sword, a knife and things like that. A Viking knife.
But there is a so it's a dig site that you're standing on top of and looking down on, and you can get laminated sheets that have numbers and tell you what's kicking about. That was really interesting. I think that was actually probably one of the highlights for me. I didn't know it was beautiful to see, and B, it was really interesting to play Where's Wally and go, you get like we were doing. I was playing the game. I had the piece of paper. And I was telling Rachel that 13 is over here. And either pointing at the thing and going, what do you think that is? Or going, you need to find the comb. It's over there somewhere. Go. And it was fantastic fun. The reason why we were talking about the school trip is because it's the first room you go into. It's quite a big room. They were doing a talk over it when we first got there. So we actually gave up and walked away from it, even though we really wanted to see it,
so
but we couldn't.
We looked around the whole thing twice and got there.
Yeah,
the second time
they were happy for us to go around as many times as we want. The chap because I didn't know whether we were being cheeky going around twice, so when we were getting on the ride bit, which was playing the second time, the chap knew we'd been round already because he was at another station. We talked to him at another station, and we said, we're being cheeky and going round again. And he was just like, no, do it as many times as you want. He said the record is 15 times, which was a granny with a child.
Bored granny, stuck babysitting.
Yeah. whilst the parents actually read everything, going round and round and round. 15 times is the board is the record. Can you do that? So, so you see the dig site, then you go on the ride.
The ride is probably what Jorvik is most famous for, because if you ask anyone about Jorvik, the first thing they do is they go, oh, the smell. And that's
It didn't bother
because...
me.
No, actually I got used to it very quickly.
It just smelled like rural.
The smell only annoyed me when we were queuing to go inside, because I'd get a whiff of it, and then I'd have some clean air, and then I'd get a whiff of it, and it was like, it didn't even bother me that much, it's an offensive smell. And that's because you go around on the ride in your little Peter Pan car through a reconstruction of Jorvik, the cannon gate, Coppergate that they've reconstructed. And there's an audio tour, and we did it once with the adult English.
Which
and we
was
did it
very
once,
interesting.
Which was very interesting. And then we did it once with the kids' English.
Which was actually lacking, I thought.
Yeah, I thought they could have gone more into it.
You get to choose what language
you can
when you
pick
sit
your
on
little
it, because
press
you've
button.
got personal speakers.
Which is quite a nice touch.
Means that they can
You're
jam.
not farting about with headphones either.
Means if it's busy as hell, they can slam loads of people on each carriage.
But yeah, you go around it, and they explain sort of the games the kids are out playing, and you go through
How the buildings are made.
how the buildings are made. You go past smiths, and you can smell the fire, and you go past a butcher's, and you get a sort of meaty smell.
Mm-hmm.
And they go through a house, and it's like, oh, can you smell the stew? Dinner's cooking.
Mm-hmm.
And of course you go over the back garden and the privy, and some poor Viking straining away, farting, which all the children love.
He's obviously had a bad curry.
Might be all the worms.
Yeah, that wasn't it. Yeah,
And so of course you get your big waft of poo, which the kids love, like I said. You can get a postcard of this Viking straining away.
Yes.
The post and scratching sniff.
Scratches his postcards.
And see that's basically the ride. There's a lot more to it than that, because they explain, what the different craftsmen are doing in the leather and the amber, and all the different craftsmen, what they're doing. They're explaining how the houses are designed, why bits are where they are, how they've just started building cellars and things like that into the houses.
Yeah, it's not just the architecture of Viking housing
alone is very interesting.
Yes. I think my big thing, which I said a couple of times to the different people, to the different staff who are all in Viking get up.
Staff are brilliant. I need to pop that in straight away as well,
classic.
actually, because even though we were adults and there was 2 school groups going around, they did take the time
And
to
a
stop.
giant mob of Russians.
Yes, and a massive group of coachload of Russians. They did stop and go, yeah, this is what we're doing, and this is why we're doing it, and this is how it worked. And they actually took the time to explain things, and they would have been within their every right to sort of hurry us along.
Yeah.
Really.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, sorry, continue.
No, I've lost my train of thought, so...
What he was going to say is that Vikings have this portrayal of being
Oh, yes.
marauders.
Mm-hmm. When they're not the craftsmen, I mean, at the end of the day, you look at all the stuff the Vikings have, like swords and combs and, shoes.
Even
and
the clothes.
Boats and houses and cloaks. Looking at some of the like things like the knitted jumpers that they're wearing. My mother wears jumpers like that, Christ's sake. It's very modern, some of it. So, yeah. It was very interesting, because it wasn't... None of the Jorvik Viking Centre, although at the front of the guide you've got this Viking warrior, it wasn't about the wars at all. It was about Viking as a people.
It was about life, day-to-day life, not the marauding.
Yeah.
So, which was great, and then after the ride, they do all the...
It goes straight into sort of the dig sites, really.
They show you a couple of skeletons, and they've then got all the sort of stuff set into the walls, and there's all the different beads and that, and all. That's when you hit your wall of text, really. They do have people at that point as well. They had a chap doing a textiles talk.
That was very
about the different
interesting.
dyes they use, and they had I've got a photo. I think you got it on camera.
I've got a little bit on
different
camera at the
colours
table.
of the dyes that they had.
And they
and-
had all bits of, everything that they've brought up, things like rings and bits of comb and stuff. That was all pulled out of dig sites.
Yeah, so so it's all almost like the comb that you weren't allowed to touch. Obviously, they had a replica you could handle, and they had the real one in a like it looked like a petri dish.
Basically.
That you could look at, but obviously you couldn't handle, which makes sense, really.
Yeah.
And then there's another chap doing the coin making,
That's later on.
which was very interesting. But it's still,
Yeah.
it's still the same part, because once you do the ride, after that it's just the information.
You see, I was. Okay.
They do have the room, which I think you want to talk about, with the holograms.
Yeah, they had a very interesting room with holograms because they've got all the stuff they've pulled up, and they've layered it into to sort of 4 different parts. So you've got leather making, so it's all sort of shoes and scabbards and all sorts of things because they use leather for clothing, on and on and on. Not
Nice.
just utility but also
Yeah.
pretty artwork. Etched into the leather and things. Then you had
So the wife,
the wifey, which was
and
all
she was all the
homeware.
home stuff, so they had
So it's
pans and
Pots and
whetstones.
pans and whetstones and cups and goblets.
That's us back after dinner. I will be doing most of the talking. Matt here has polished up his bottle of champagne.
Woo! Hi!
And can no longer say flamingo.
Flamenco!
Please don't be silly. Right, so to finish off today, we did Barley Hall, which is... Barley Hall is... It's quite a quick one to do, actually. It's effectively a medieval building, very high-standing, sort of posh manor house type building, if you will, that was rediscovered and reconstructed.
Yes.
Using medieval techniques. So all the tiles and stuff they've redone how they would have done it back in the day. And you get to go and have a look around the house. At the moment there is an exhibition upstairs from horrible histories, sort of plague, death and pustules or something.
General horrible history-ness.
Yeah. So
All the icky bits.
So it goes on about, yes, or how medicine worked at the time, which was basically, if you're ill, it's because God wanted you to be ill. So we'll make you comfortable, but God will cure you if you should be cured.
Which
So pray.
Yeah.
Pray.
Which actually means you're dead, mate.
So that was quite interesting, because it also
Yes.
went into sort of, so your apothecaries and...
Apothecaries.
Um,
And I'm the drunk one.
as well as sort of early medicine that was developed in sort of your butcher barbers,
Yes.
and that kind of thing. So that was very interesting. We both had a good giggle, sort of squeamishly, over the big chest of instruments that the barbers
Barber
used.
surgeon.
Barber surgeon, used. So sort of bone saws and all that sort of thing.
It was weird little things like, burning forks to
Cauterizing
cauterizing tongs.
Cauterizing
And,
tongs.
it
was the ones for like
it was
the
vein,
arteries.
artery
Little
hooks.
tongs designed for lifting up
Oh.
arteries so they could tie them before sawing the limbs off.
Oh, it was nasty.
And they also had a mock plague doctor set up, and they went into sort of the plague. And
Yes.
the fact that York got hit 5 times by the plague in 50 years, so
Yeah.
they were pretty terrified of the plague.
Yes.
And they had skeletons sort of showing the rickets and sort of tumours and sort of the diseases that were around at the time, and how that, which is obvious because the skeleton is affected.
Yeah.
They even
And for it
had
to get to the bones, it has to be bad.
yeah, so lots of TB skeletons where the spines had become hollowed out from infection. And stuff like that, which is very interesting. The main Barley Hall itself, they've done up all the interior. They've got very helpful staff who tell you...
Oh yeah, that girl was brilliant.
That girl was absolutely brilliant. Very helpful staff who tell you why the hall is laid out. Because the big thing about Barley Hall is the feast hall.
Yes,
effectively.
that's the most
That's
important
the bit they
room.
pimp.
historically that's the room of.
Yes, well,
Show.
it's the feast hall. So, they explain to you about that, they tell you about the different drinking games they played and how they had the raised dais and sat
Step above
people
the
and
rest.
all the rest of that sort of thing. So, that was very interesting. It's not a long day to do. It was a nice add-on. We got in free with the passport we got from Jorvik.
To be honest, if you were either A, very good at reading, or B, trucking it, you could get around the entire passport in a day. But we did the Jorvik Viking Centre and Barley Hall, and after that
We hit the shambles. And
I
did some
could
shopping.
hardly read after Barley Hall. I was like,
We are both very tired. It's been a very long weekend.
yeah, seeing as we could just come here from getting married and things, it's been a
And
bit
the dog
mental.
and things.
Yeah. Barley Hall was good. The fact that it was all horrible history, actually, I personally made the internal decision of
That's why we chose
sod
to go there.
we
Actually, over
decided-
the other experiences.
Yes, because of the horrible histories. Because I went, sod the official writing, I'm just going to read the horrible history bits. Because the horrible history bits were written in a way that I could actually understand without chewing through the text. And I still learnt quite a bit from it, actually.
Yeah.
So
Definitely worth doing. I
Yes.
would say worth getting as part of the passport. It was £8 for an adult entry. I did clock
was
that.
it? All right.
And although I really enjoyed it, I'm not sure I'd have been happy paying £8 each.
No, because we
Oh,
got
because it
around
wasn't
that in
that
about an
long.
hour.
We
Although
got-
there were some fun things for the kids to do. Things like, can you smell what's in each barrel?
Yeah, poo
and
and things.
yeah, and they did have medicine making, because it was all just spices that they used for
Yeah.
medicine in the day. So they had pots where you could throw
Lots
them all
of
in one.
turmeric.
Pardon?
Lots of turmeric.
Yes, throwing things in a pot and
Grinding it.
Grinding
And a pestle
out.
or mortar you could play with.
and things like that. It was fun, and they did
It was
have
really good, and it was really nice add on to the history of York.
yes.
But yeah, I think it'd be a bit of an expensive day out for not a lot.
It only you're sort of looking at about 2 hours max
I think
for
if
it.
we hadn't got chatting away to the last in the Great Hall for so long, because we were talking about it for ages.
Oh yeah,
I think we'd have been around in half the time.
yes, definitely.
So that sort of summarises up the Barley Hall. Definitely worth doing. Get it as part of the passport. Really nice little look into medieval life.
I think with any of them, if you're going to do any of them, you might as well get the passport, because you'll do one of, because
You easily
you
fit
can do
both
one
in,
of the
you easily
others.
fit two in one
Yeah.
day without rushing.
And then the price to get one or the passport isn't much.
Yeah, I mean it was only £3 more for the passport, and so
From
we've already
Jorvik.
saved £5 each on the passport, and we're going to be doing at least one of the other things on Thursday.
Yeah, even if we decide sod it and don't do either, that we can't be bothered
Yeah.
going into York and go and do something different. Woo, doesn't matter. We've already made our money back.
And it lasts a year as well. Which
That's
is nice.
another thing. So if
The
we do come,
passport.
we can always do
So
them
we can
again
get into
another
Jorvik
time.
again whenever we want. We can go and look again on Thursday if we want. Which is quite nice. So definitely worth doing the Barley Hall. Recommend getting the passport.
Yes, Barley Hall on the passport. Wouldn't really recommend just going and doing it on its own.
Bit expensive on its own.
Yeah. Do the Viking Centre and Barley Hall.
Complements the other exhibitions. Is why they've done a passport.
Yes.
They all complement each other very well.
Yes.